Derivatives trading involves substantial risk of loss and is not suitable for all investors. Past performance is not necessarily indicative of future results.
So stressful when the world's on fire. Good God. I can't look at this, guys. Like, my strategy is you buy it and you hope that you got a good spot. Yeah, but we all think you're crazy. You don't fight this. No way. The markets are freaking out and you don't think that anything is wrong? Come back tomorrow and I'll lose it all. Should be fun.
Good morning, everybody. It is Monday, and we got a Federal Reserve meeting this week. It's going to be it's going to be a week. I think we're going to have some fun. I think we might feel some pain, probably. There's going to be some wild things happen in the market, I think, this week. We've got a video out today, too. So let us go to the charts right away, shall we? Okay, so here is the ZN, and we are kind of trending up from Friday and in the overnight. The big story is the Japanese yen. I will get to that in a moment. S&P 500 doing, holding pretty okay. We are kind of past the worst of it. Like the period where I thought the most selling would be, we're already past. Of course, we have earnings, so earnings could be bad and all of that, but I'm kind of expecting us to be flat to up now instead of down. Not that it couldn't go down, just that it looks like the flows are kind of turning higher a little bit. Okay, oil, well, yeah, they're taking a little bit. Had some geopolitical risks still out there and everything. Israel has not really gone full bore into Rafah yet. The Biden administration is basically pulling out all the stops to try and prevent it for some reason. And here we got gold and silver sideways. Gold or copper. Copper just looks so amazing. Every time I come in here, I'm like, why am I not long copper? Why? Okay. And here's the Japanese yen. My goodness. Okay, so on Friday, they had their central bank meeting, and the Japanese yen did not react well to it. But now, overnight, they went almost basically right to the 160 or whatever in the spot, and intervention came in. And it looks like this time that the intervention is possibly holding. But the Japanese yen is like freaking on life support right now. And all sorts of crazy things could come off of this, right? Because there's other countries that are probably, a little upset about the Japanese yen being so low, like China. And if they start to get involved, then you could really start to see some like crazy, wild things happen. Yeah, you just pulled it up here on a shorter chart real quick, so we can see that 158.38 apparently is equal to 160 in the spot. All right. So, good morning, Octavius, A. Paul, Uzi, Robert. Yeah, for some reason, I mean, we all know what it is. Can you imagine? Like, it's kind of funny to think about. What if somebody else was president? What if Donald Trump was president right now? Do you think that he would be putting all diplomatic pressure that he possibly can into trying to prevent Israel to go into Rafah? It would probably already be over. And how would that make the world different, over the past 2 weeks? I really don't know. It's kind of weird to think about, especially with all of the college protests and all this crazy stuff. It's just a little bit wacky. I continually see this thing though. Like, here's the thing that gets me. Okay, is like, okay, the Biden administration has certain political opinions. The Biden administration has certain political incentives because of their base to do certain things. When I look at those opinions and incentives, what they do doesn't make sense. It's like if I was president, if I was Joe Biden, okay, if I was a hyper liberal Democratic president, I would want this to be over as quickly as possible. Like, every day that this situation in Israel goes on, the worse it is for me. Just let them go. You know, you don't like do anything. Don't put your finger on the scale. Just don't do anything and let Israel take care of it. By coming in and doing what they're doing, they're just kind of like delaying the inevitable, I think. I mean, maybe they do actually get like a ceasefire and it turns out really great and everything, but I don't see it working out that way, you know? As much as dumbass shit is going on in the world, people still struggle with attributing motive because they don't want to be labeled conspiracy theorists. Well, attributing motive, I think that in this instance, we pretty much know that the Biden administration is pressuring Israel as much as it can to prevent them from going into Rafah. Like, that has been reported. Yeah. Willing to shaft our greatest ally because you need the Hamas vote. It's funny that, I mean, but like, again, okay, so like, if you go all in Hamas vote, right, then everybody else in the United States is going to turn against you and you're going to lose, right? You have to play both sides. So, you know, it's not like, oh, we want to explicitly help the terrorists. No, you have to have the plausible deniability, be able to come in and say, well, we just want this conflict to end and we want what's best for everybody, right?
Block by.
You think he'll still win? I don't know about that. I go back to, if the election was held today, Joe Biden would almost certainly lose. And something's very, very, very wrong if he didn't lose. But I mean, the way that he's playing this particular issue isn't helping him. I really don't think it's helping him. Well, of course we will. Don't listen, don't let everybody's cynicism get to you. By the way, oil coming back pretty hard this morning. Maybe that is because of these headlines that they're trying to work out a ceasefire again. Because I think it was on Thursday they were basically like, yeah, ceasefire negotiations are failing and they're going in imminently. And then all of a sudden over the weekend it was like, okay, actually we're talking about a ceasefire again. That they would do like a 3-week ceasefire in exchange for a couple of hostage switches. And would he lose an election day in election, or would he lose a 3-week drawn out mail-in ballot drop off at 3 a.m.? Yeah. Well, so that aspect of things is a little interesting, or rather from the perspective of like me polling and doing all of the kind of like quantitative stuff that you can do that I don't do because that's not my focus and I don't have enough time to do that sort of thing right now. But okay, so last time around, I think it's pretty clear now at this point that the changes to the voting rules because of COVID benefited Joe Biden. I'm not entirely sure that that was like responsible for him winning per se, but it definitely had a pretty measurable effect that was positive for Joe Biden. Okay. This time around, is it the same thing? Well, I can't really say for sure because a lot of those rules have changed, or rather were really like only in place for COVID and will not be the same this time around. But I don't know enough of the details about which rules in which states to game out if it would matter in the places where it matters. You know what I mean? So like, but then the other thing is that if the election were held today, the margin of error like that Trump has on Joe Biden right now would more than overcome that anyways. They would not be able to find enough votes to do it. It would be like, okay, we're just going to announce the result now. The conspiracy theorist, explanation of it would be that we would get the results really fast all of a sudden for some reason. But you're right that the Democrat Party, by the way, my chair's a little bit too high. The Democrat Party is absolutely plays the game of we want the counting to go on as long as possible to allow as many mail-in votes to come in as possible because we know that those benefit us. Yes. Here's the thing that this is one of those kind of little like issues that like I find really frustrating to talk to people on my side of the aisle about, because here's the thing. In Utah, we have full-on mail-in voting. Like, they mail you a ballot, okay? And Utah is one of the most Republican-dominated conservative areas in the country. We're not Southern conservative. We are Intermountain West conservative, but Utah is extremely conservative. So if all Republicans are against mail-in balloting and all of this other nonsense, why do we have it in Utah? I'll tell you why. Because voters like it. Voters like it. They're dumb. People are dumb. They don't think about, this makes it easier to steal elections. They don't think that it's possible to steal elections like that. They don't believe the conspiracy theories, I don't think. And they don't think about, hey, like, we've had mail for, hundreds of years now. How come we never allowed mail-in balloting before? Right. They like it. They like it. The voters like it. So if you're in the GOP at this point, what are you going to do? Like, you're fighting the inevitable. The way that you blunt this strategy is you go all in too. Right? Now, there's not if there's not a partisan advantage in the mail-in balloting, the mail-in balloting benefits both parties equally, then it loses its power and they stop doing it. If Democrats got more votes when people turned up to the polls, then they would push for people to turn up to the polls. Do we have ballot drop-off boxes everywhere? We do. My understand. Well, I mean, we did in COVID. I do not I tell you what, man. I don't know if it's just like they can't keep track of everything, or if it's like I just don't have the attention because of the kids and everything. I used to be able to tell you these sorts of things, couldn't I? But not anymore. I'm just not that up on the political issues in Utah. My understanding is that we have ballot drop-off boxes, but that there's like very, very strict rules on them. They're only allowed to be in certain places. They're carefully watched. Yada, 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 yada. it's kind of scary to me, like, to watch the deviousness of politicians as they've changed the political system here in Utah. They gutted the caucus system. They give everybody mail-in balloting. The Democrat Party is trying really, really, really hard to make inroads. I don't think that any Republicans come in and are like, okay, guys, here's our plan to turn New York red. Okay. But the Democrats definitely say, here's how we're going to turn Utah blue. We did it to Colorado. Now we're going to do it to Utah and Texas. 100% a thing. 100% a thing. And I'm just saying, part of it is that Republicans, especially the really activist, dyed-in-the-wool, uber conservative MAGA type Republicans, okay, are unwilling to be practical and look at reality, see where they're going to lose, and, you know, blunt the effects of that. They're just like, no, we know that we're going to lose, but we're still going to go all in on losing because we'll keep our principles. And yeah, we'll keep our, but I'm just saying, like, can't you, like, keep your principles, but, like, also encourage your voters to vote by mail, because otherwise you can't win elections? Like, okay, whatever. Wall Street is gonna love block. Yeah. It's really weird to see the political evolution of the cryptocurrency issue, where it's like the Biden administration is kind of tepidly anti-Bitcoin, like, because they got Elizabeth Warren whispering in their ear that crypto was bad, and then they've got all these other people that I think probably push it. But then the Republicans now all of a sudden are just like all in on on Bitcoin, and I really don't think that Bitcoin is conservative at all. I mean, I guess there is like this libertarian bent to it. Of course there is that, but you know, like, the conservative thing should be, we have these institutions that are, you know, very carefully monitor and are in charge of our currencies and everything, and we're just gonna, like, throw it to the wind and to this wild west. It's just crazy to me. It's not conservative in the least bit. It's reckless is what I think it is. But anyways, I used to always hear about practically everyone wanting to do all they can to move to Colorado, and for the past couple of years, no one wants to go to Colorado. Oh yeah, no. Well, it's Montana now. If you're really rich, you got the money, you move to Montana. Dude, it's so weird to think about. If I let's see here. Oh, I don't know how I would do this. Night map or something like that. Yeah, here we go. Can I get one that's like the Earth at night? Maybe. Can I get one that I can kind of like move around on? Yeah, okay. So if you're not in the West, maybe this will be interesting to you. Here's the West. Okay. Wait, where's my pen? Okay, so we all know that, like, right here where the you know, this is kind of like the Midwest, right? But then there's like this no man's land that is like the plains. Actually, let's include it all the way up into Canada. Canada, right? Because once you get to the mountains, it's like it's hard to get through, except for this one kind of little area here through Wyoming, okay, where all the pioneers come through. Now, we got you can see a couple of little major cities here, right? So this right here is Salt Lake City. Oh, okay. That's Salt Lake. That's Ogden, basically, and that's Provo. Okay. Colorado has a pretty similar setup, except for that they have Denver, and I think this one is Boulder, is it? I can't remember. Who's your broker? I use EdgeClear and Rhythmic Data. Okay, here's Denver. Okay. What else is out here in the West? In this kind of like no man's land, right? Well, what's this thing right here? What is that? Let's go look. Turn it into satellite so we can kind of see here. Am I reading? Oh, you know what? There's the water. Yeah, so we can use this. It's like kind of the water that goes like this. Oh, no, that's North Dakota. I got it wrong. Is it this one right here? Okay, well, the border is like here, right? I'm looking for these ones that are like Great Falls and stuff. I'm all mixed up now. Well, anyways, doesn't matter. I was gonna try and point to an individual city, but just note, like, okay, so here's Salt Lake City, okay, and then look at these places in Montana, right? Like, there actually are some relatively large population centers out here in like Montana and the Dakotas, but like you notice that their cities are just like a lot more spread out. So it's like people that can afford to live out in the middle of nowhere, they move out there. And so a lot of people that were like in California and Chicago and New York and even Florida, and they're like, this is too crowded and I don't like this and this COVID thing has me all freaked out. They moved to Montana. Wouldn't like all of ya? Totally is. So it's kind of fun to watch, to look at the plains area, because you can just kind of see where the roads are. There's just like a little town every couple 20 miles or something going out into here. But I think I wish that this was showing maps. I think that there's like Kansas City. I think that this one is Kansas City. And then yeah, between Kansas City and Denver, there's just nothing. How can these states that have so little people have so much power in your elections? Because we intentionally made it that way. You know what? I love this. I love this topic of conversation. Why is it? Why?
Block by.
What's wrong with that? So you have individual states. Each state is a little bit different. What's wrong with giving each individual state an equal amount of power. See, people take it for granted. They say, well, isn't what's supposed to happen supposed to be what the majority of people believe? No. Why? Why is that inherently good? That it should be pure democracy. Right? Every time that they try pure democracy in history, like it goes poorly. Quite frankly, this isn't the first time that we've tried a republic and a republic failed too, by the way. Right? Quite frankly, if you made it, like the Democrats, I tell you what, some of these things that I hear people promote on the internet are just like really like, oh God, really? Think this through. Think this through, guys. Okay. If we have a system where California and New York decide everything else for the rest of the country, what incentive does the rest of the country have to participate? There's no incentive. You know what would happen at that point? Is it would split off. These people would say, well, we're going to go and make our own country then. You can be California and New York can be, you can stay and we'll make our own country. They're not. People aren't just going to sit there and like let other people choose for them everything. Especially when you give it like, it really is like cities versus country. So you're going to let the cities can make all of the decisions. The people in the country aren't going to allow that. You speak like you're living in a small town. Well, I live in Salt Lake City, which is not a small town, but I have been in small towns, and I feel like I understand the way that small towns work and the way that those people think, and the history of it. Like, honestly, that's one of the things you want to understand history, and frankly, understand the things that are going on right now. Is one of the easiest models to help you understand what's going on, is that almost all modern conflicts can be thought of within the perspective of a core and a periphery, or the manufacturing centers and the resource and farming centers. And most conflicts are generally the core trying to impose their will on the periphery, because they want to extract as much value out of the periphery as they can, and the periphery is like, no, we're doing this stuff. We want to make the money from it. And it's always about that. Like Vietnam, that's what it was. Vietnam was periphery. They were getting resources. They were making money from farming and getting resources from Vietnam. And then when communism came in and basically ended that, the core came in and tried to force it. Now, of course, communism was a major factor of it too, but don't discount the effect that the mercantilism played in it, right? And now you're seeing it here in the United States, where you have cores where like all of the business and finance stuff happens, and the technology, I guess, now too. Right? And then everywhere else is just resources and farming. And they vote completely different because they have completely different incentives. And if you have the core come in and try and impose its will on the peripheries, eventually the peripheries just get fed up of it and leave. Out just in September, starting September 1st in Russia, to ban the use of all cryptocurrencies within their borders except for digital financial assets issued by the state. Well, that's kind of wild, because my understanding was that Russia was using cryptocurrencies to do tons of money laundering and stuff. Elite HJ high stuff. Yeah. Anyways, it's funny that we got onto this subject so early today. It has nothing to do with what's going on, but hey. You think about that, Democrats. If you're making all of the decisions, What incentive does that give the other party to participate? So the reality is it's actually very, very smart from like a game theory perspective to give minority interests more power so that they stay in it. Otherwise, what you got will just fall apart. And then you'll be like China. Like, the only way that America can really be strong is if America is governed by one government. We can't have 3 countries in America. We can't have 5 countries in America. We all need to be, you know, what the height of the American in order to be successful. You need all of it. Which is really, that's what they say in China, which is really just a way of saying, well, unless we're able to control everybody and force everybody to do what we want, we'll never have success. It's a dumb thing to say. Imagine, China. Just, I know you hate me, Xi. I know that you send all of your robots against me and all this none. Okay, but just hear me out here. Imagine if you in Taiwan were like, okay, you know what, Taiwan, you are your own separate country. Now let's work together. Oh, you have all, you manufacture all of these chips? We can, you know, we can like buy those chips from you and do stuff on top of it and then export it all, and we'd be that much richer. Work together. You work together and you create partnerships that benefit everybody. Instead of trying to force somebody underneath your thumb because you can extract a teeny tiny little bit more from them. Yeah, so we already kind of mentioned that the Bank of Japan was said to have done an intervention on the yen on their public holiday they had recently, as was their lower liquidity in the USD JPY, allowing for more bang for their buck, probably. But, like, I mean, is that going to hold? I don't know. It's going to be a little weird to have a Federal Reserve meeting this week with the backdrop of the Japanese yen going on. It's not the first time that this has happened, and I remember last time that this happened, me thinking that, like, you know, this could maybe dominate the meeting, but it really didn't, and every, you know, it just kind of blew over. But so can I read something about this actually? Because I've been, again, you know, if we're really confused about something, sometimes it's that people are dumb and are doing irrational things. For sure. But sometimes it's just you don't understand things correctly. The model in your mind is incorrect. Okay. Well, Deutsche Bank says that the currency's decline is warranted and finally marks the day where the market realizes that Japan is following a policy of Benyan neglect for the yen. And here's what they say. We have long argued that FX intervention is not credible, and the toning down of verbal jawboning from the finance minister overnight is on balance a positive from a credibility perspective. The possibility of intervention can't be ruled out if the market turns disorderly. But it's also notable that Governor Ueda played down the importance of the yen in his press conference today, as well as signaling no urgency to hike rates. We would frame the ongoing yen collapse around the following points. I'm not going to read all of these points completely out, but yen weakness is simply not that bad for Japan. The tourism sector is booming, profit margins on the Nikkei are soaring, and exporter competitiveness is increasing. True, the cost of imported items is going up, but growth is fine. The government is helping offset some of the costs via subsidies, and core inflation is not accelerating. More importantly, the Japanese are huge foreign asset owners via Japan's positive net international investment position. Yen weakness therefore leads to huge capital gains on foreign bonds and equities. Most easily summarized in the observation that the government pension fund has roughly made more profits over the last 2 years than over the last 20 years combined. Wow. 2, there simply isn't an inflation problem. Japan's core CPI is around 2%. And has been decelerating in recent months. 3, negative real rates are great. There is a huge attraction to running negative real rates for the consolidated government balance sheet, as we demonstrated last year. It creates fiscal space via 20 trillion carry trade. The bottom line, Deutsche concludes, is that for the JPY to turn stronger, the Japanese need to unwind their carry trade. Okay, so basically what they're saying is that the yen has been easy monetary policy all the time for so long that there is a very strong incentives for them to stay long that trade, and it's very difficult to get the ball rolling. The market may at some point force the issue. If the Japanese yen gets hammered too much, there's a point at which it really starts to hurt the Japanese, and then they would come in with, okay, I guess we'll hike interest rates. And could they get back up to 5%? Who knows? That would be crazy, right? Or the other thing would be that it goes too low, and then China starts to devalue their currency, and so now you get a currency war sort of a problem. Both scenarios would be probably bad for interest rates and the U.S. economy. Would probably push interest rates higher and really create a lot of capital flight out of the market. So that's a tough situation. I'm not sure I'm seeing anything that makes any of this stuff imminent. So I kind of think, I could be dead wrong about this, okay? Don't quote me on this one, okay? But this is probably something where, like, just remember that it happened, and everything that you knew at this time about why it's happening and the forces and how it went, etc., because it will matter later. Not this year, but maybe 5-10 years from now, you'll remember, and it will be useful information to you. But at the moment, I don't think that, it just doesn't seem like... And by the way, when you're getting the intervention, I mean, there is a little bit of movement in the treasuries, but not nearly as much as there used to be. It used to be that, like, those were, like, crazy trades that you would catch, but they haven't been the same, so... All these recent reports on the U.S. economic health is weighing heavily on oil. We've started to shift away from Israel versus Hamas and towards a U.S. focus. Well, yeah, I mean... It was kind of funny when it was all, geopolitical risk, because all of those moves were, like, very short-lived, weren't they? But now the thing in oil is that the oil market does not believe that the global demand is there to support these prices, and so they've all kind of been shorting it. See how that actually turns out. By the way, I haven't said a whole lot about the Treasury. I would note that there seemed to be a little bit harder selling in the 30 years, so I'm still kind of seeing some steepening, but overall the action in the outrights looks very much like a Monday. So let's recenter things and sit on our hands. Sounds like Europe will be next after Japan. No. Japan is a completely different situation. Europe is a completely different situation. In Europe, they're like sitting on the precipice of recession and are reducing rates. So that's kind of like the rock and the hard place that the Fed is in right now, because the Federal Reserve kind of sets interest rates for the whole world. And basically, all of the European central banks are talking about cutting because their economies are hurting. Meanwhile, over here in the US, the data suggests that everything is fine and is really strong. Maybe partly because interest rates are a little bit lower. But then interest rates come up in the past month, and the market still seems to be just fine about it. So... Does that justify rate cuts in the United States? I think no, but there's still definitely the pressure to cut rates. And that goes back into this whole conspiracy theory that the Biden administration has basically put out the order to make the economy look as good as possible at all costs so that we get reelected. Well, so is the United States look stronger than it actually is? Because why is it that everybody in Europe is struggling and the United States is not? Well, if we assume that all of the data is correct and that there's nothing fishy going on there, because we really don't have any direct evidence that it is. And I think that we do have plenty of things that we are seeing that does suggest that the economy is very, very strong. I think that it would have to be that the United States has continued to dump money into the economy and is running a very wide fiscal deficit compared to the European economies. Like, there's all this discussion about, like, maybe interest rate policy isn't as effective anymore. Like, there's one thing that drove me nuts. I saw this video the other day on TikTok, and these guys were talking about the housing market and everything, and they're like, you know, the reason that raising interest rates, you know, causes the economy to slow down is because then it makes it so that people can't afford houses and all this. And I'm like, no, they don't give a crap about the housing market. Like, the housing market is kind of like a secondary concern. They're more concerned about how much debt can companies take on, how much leverage can companies take on to grow the economy, right? And you have too much, then you create inflation. And that's the thing, that the interest rates. But then we say, like, oh, but the companies that already taken on so much debt, their debt burden is so low that that the higher interest rates don't really bother them. Could be. But another effect that nobody ever seems to talk about is the fact that the United States is just running a huge fiscal deficit right now. Like, whenever we get, like, over the past few months, the Treasury has gotten in more receipts than expected. And they're saying that they're just gonna, well, not they're saying, like, analysts are predicting that they will just run that whole thing off. That they'll just say, oh, okay, now we don't have to issue as many bonds, instead of, like, letting it build up and, like, improve our fiscal situation. But yeah, it's super easy to forget that debt is good. Well, it can be, you know what I mean? Yeah. Well, and the issue is that, okay, debt is good. Too much debt is really, really bad. But more debt is almost always good in the short term. So we have a system that unfortunately is all balanced towards the short term right now, or biased towards the short term. And so we continue to make really poor long-term decisions because of that. So we shall see. Treasury is under a little bit of pressure here. 2 ticks down, not a huge change in orders though. Wow, Alan, a tornado blew my rail yard away. Wow. Dude, I've seen a lot of videos this weekend about the storms. Yeah, we're also in an election year. An election year does change things, I'll admit. But that's where I kind of come back to, like, okay, if we're kind of all doing things different just for an election year, I would kind of think that would work against you. That, like, there would be enough time that by the time the consequences came for what you're doing, it would hit, like, right as the election came along and would screw you over. But I don't think that that's what's actually happening. I think that the economy is stronger than anticipated because people aren't doing as badly as anticipated. Like, people have, like, wages are increasing. There are some people out there that are doing really, really well. people in places like California and New York, and they're just moving to a lower cost area and buying houses with cash. So, like, the whole like scenario that like we're on the edge of a recession and it's just going to reveal it's, you know, because that I think like a year ago was a big thing, right? There's a lot of people predicting that sort of a thing, and that's kind of like, I'm not sure if I see that, but I mean, there is a possibility that we slump into that, and now I kind of feel like that things would have to shift dramatically from here for that scenario to be back on the cards. Instead, I think that we kind of just do okay, and that a lot of the problems that we have just continue to fester. Well, there's a third tick down. Does not seem to be accompanied by anything in the currencies going on, so it is just the treasuries. Not a huge shift in cumulative delta, though. So that's a little contradictory. Normally when I have a move that's, you know, not very much in terms of cumulative delta, you know, it only took 1,000 contracts and it seems like it moved a lot. Well, it was only 3 ticks, so that could just be noise. But normally when I see move down like that, I'm immediately looking at currencies. So if it's not direct flows and if it's not currencies, then what is it? My only other choice is that market makers are screwing with us. So I'm really nervous about trading with that trend. Tornadoes seem great. I always found it a little jarring how nonchalant people in the Midwest are about tornadoes. They're like, oh, there's a tornado. Let's get closer. You know, like, because when I lived in that area, and if there was like any chance that there was going to be a tornado in the area, I wanted to be inside, you know? But they're like, oh yeah, I want to be, you know, I want to see it coming. And if I'm sure it's going to come over me, then I guess I get under the shelter or something. But storm chasing because of boredom. Yeah. Maybe it's just the people that I see on social media that are chasing that. And there was this one video where a pretty big tornado like passed over a train, and the guys are just like, oh, you know, we should like get away from the windows at least. Like, okay. Tornado goes right over them, and they're like, no big deal. That one was kind of weird because the tornado mostly only flung mud at them, but and they are making a new Twister movie. I don't know why we needed to remake that movie, but okay. Okay. 24, they gonna bust this. So this is, I want to say, an interesting spot, but it's not an interesting spot, because I think that they're gonna play games with you here. So it may just sputter out here and move back up to 26. That's one scenario. Another scenario is that it will break through. Yeah, we'll all get all excited, and then it will reverse, right? Another scenario is there's a really big downtrend coming in. It just keeps going. So I guess what? But I'm not going to trade it because I'm not seeing anything. Actually, you know what? I'm thinking about it now. I'm like, hey, we didn't even do our notes. Then we move today to 2024-04-26, was it? And we copy template to today. Have the small text on. I should do the bigger text. Hold on. Big text. There we go. JPY intervention. Geopolitical risk. Decline. Let's say Israel ceasefire negotiations reduces geopolitical risk. Fed meeting Wednesday. Monday flows slow. Okay, so they are trading 23. Only about 3,000 contracts to clear it, but they're not looking all that. So, like, them trading 23, normally I would be like, oh, okay, stop run, etc., etc. But they didn't do that, did they? They kind of traded it, and it was kind of like not a big deal. So let's see. Can't wait for better movies. Well, it's going to be a long time. So you got to remember that, like, we had COVID, and then after COVID, we had like a writer's strike. And so now, like, you're just picking up on a new project, and a new project, it might be like 1 or 2 years before you get a new project off the ground. So it's probably going to be another year or two of pretty mediocre movies. Okay, a little bit touched 23, but then they ticked back up. So we'll see. This kind of looks to me like something that flips back up, but the way that these things kind of go, like trying to guess and play that is a fool's game. So watching this TikTok video while I was eating breakfast today, where this guy was talking about because I guess he worked for Citigroup, and they would have this little card game that you would play that was kind of like a trading card game, or like it was a card game that was kind of like poker, but it was kind of built to mimic trading rather. And he was like doing really well, and it was like this last round, and he got a really low card. And so he got a really low card and decided to bluff and just like really push things up as hard as possible, because he thought it was going to be low. And then when the card game finished, like, he had the lowest card and everybody else had the highest card, which was basically statistically impossible. And so they had like rigged the game against him to see what he would do, and if he would like back himself, and he did. This is kind of an interesting story. But he was like, it's kind of it was rigged against me, and that's kind of a metaphor for markets. So I was like, oh, it kind of is. It's like we all think like the game is rigged, but we all think it's rigged like, these people, they get access to information that we don't have. They can cheat, like there's rules that you're not supposed to break that they're breaking all the time, and all of this sort of a thing. But I would argue that the markets are rigged at their most basic level. Like the very structure of the market leads to certain outcomes, and they are like baked into the system. And it's not even so much like, oh, okay, so we're going to use a limit order book because that helps us, sort of a thing. It's just like, that's the way the thing evolved, and then the system kind of all strengthens itself around that. And So there's going to be certain people that benefit from it and certain people that don't. And we don't benefit from it, at least not anymore. Maybe if there was still floor trading, maybe that would be a thing, but no. And so we kind of have to compensate for that in our trading. So it puts us at a huge disadvantage. Well, I would like to see 25 half, but they did back off of those lows quite easily. The longer term ones catched up with Z and NZF. Yeah, so there was a little bit of flattening, but on that move, they moved up together, so. I'm sorry, not flattening. There had been a little bit of steepening, so the 5-year was going up more than the 30-year was going down more. On that move, the 30-year moved down more. But then when we came back, they all moved up 3 or 4 ticks. We should add in here, by the way, in addition to the JPY intervention, Japan holiday today. So that kind of means less flows as well. You never know, though. So sometimes when we have a Federal Reserve meeting, usually it will do Monday and Tuesday, but I have seen some situations where it's just Tuesday and Wednesday. But like flows will come in. It's like they know what the Federal Reserve is going to do or which way it's going to go, and they just all get ahead of it. And I it's wild, but it happens. It doesn't happen anymore. I haven't seen it at least in a long time. I kind of wonder if it was happening because one of those Fed members that was like ousted was giving tips, But you always kind of got to keep an eye out for it. But when those flows kind of start, they kind of start from the beginning. It's almost time for the S&P 500 to open. So I don't see that happening. I think that the Treasury is probably going to be relatively constrained again. So. Oh, but you know what we need to do? We need to talk about our video. We have a video out. Let me see here. What's the, oh, I guess I have to come in here to get it. I want the video link. April 29th. This is the 29th. Okay. Get shareable link. So it won't be available yet. Oh, I guess I won't post the link yet. I'll post it in 5 minutes. But I did get my momentum video out. So I'm excited to have that one out and see how you guys react to it. I'm hoping because I gave like a really, really broad overview, right? So this is a video where I'm thinking, okay, depending on how people react to it and the kind of questions that they ask, we can then make other content that drills down into more of the specifics about it, right? But maybe not. Maybe you guys are just like, momentum, nobody cares. I want to have that video out. So I guess I think the next video should be the chair video. I think I should make the video about the chair. Kind of been putting that one off. A weird thing on my shirt. A little piece of lint or something. Did I get it? Got it. And then I think we should make one about why index funds are evil. Do you think what would happen? what if index funds were banned? What if we just banned index? You can't have an index fund. Like, you can like do it yourself. You can buy a little bit of every company and you can do it yourself. You know, maybe if you're rich or something, but like just everybody collectively investing in an index fund, it's like it's not allowed. How would that change things? Probably a lot less money goes into the market in that situation, huh? Because the risk of owning individual stocks is probably too much for most people. Can't ban index funds. No. Okay, so scenario 2. What if you say that funds do not get a vote? In order for you to get a vote, to have votable shares, rather, in order for you to have votable shares, you must be directly invested. You're an individual, you're directly invested. Choosing the right one would be a brain for a lot of people new in investing. Well, right. And like the whole thing is that the people that are like really good at investing, it's like a very rare, and there's probably a lot of luck involved in it, you know, like stuff goes back. So in my video that I'm putting out today, I introduced the idea of let's make our own fund, right? And I kind of approach it more from the perspective of let's make a momentum fund. Oh my gosh, all the way up to 26 and now 26 half. I feel like that I read that whole move like perfect. I think that some of these ideas about quote unquote price action, like overall, I think that their general theory of markets is nonsense. And that's why I rail against it so much. But I don't think that the ideas are completely without merit. Because if there's nothing else going on, it sure seems to me like the most likely thing to happen is that they will breach the higher the low by like a tick and then quickly reverse. Or like, basically you could do it even more simple. Like, if nothing's going on and is just the market maker, then basically any kind of significant price movement that you get, you can just trade against it. Every time that I do that, it screws. It doesn't work for me. So clearly there's more to it than that, but definitely when it's only the market makers involved, you get kind of like these games. Schwab claimed that the amount of cash in its robo-advisor portfolios was decided by sophisticated economic Yeah. Well, because what happens? A better example would be sorry, who is it? Yeah, it's BlackRock. BlackRock has an algorithm called Aladdin. And basically what Aladdin is able to do, here's how I understand Aladdin. And just to be clear, haven't worked there. I have no inside track into how they work. So I'm just taking what I've read online and what I know from the literature to guess what they're probably doing and why it's so significant. What Aladdin does is it says like, okay, we got this much in contributions and this much in distributions this month. So this is how much money we have now that we need to go out and buy. Like there's a certain amount of cash that I'm supposed to have, and that will fluctuate based on reasons and certain economic factors and stuff. But then, there's the rules of the portfolio that I'm supposed to be an index fund. And so I have to go and buy these individual stocks. How do I go about it? Do I just go out and buy all of the stocks all at the same time? That would be dumb. That would be dumb because it's going to have an effect. And the effect of these funds is like huge. And that would just push the whole market up, and you would end up buying higher than you otherwise would. And so the costs of executing would cancel out any gains that you make from just the market doing its thing or whatever, because you'd always pay too much. So what it does instead is it does this, is it says, okay, here's the stocks, and here's how stocks are doing relative to the S&P 500 and all of those sorts of things. If I buy this stock, that's going to make this one stock go up, and it probably will have an effect on its related stocks. But then maybe there's this other stock that I have a little bit too much of because it's gone up too much. So then I can sell that one. And so it kind of creates this sequential order of my effect on the market based on the current conditions is going to be, and ergo, what is the optimal way for me to execute all of my transactions. And so you basically end up with this algorithm that basically tells you how the market's going to move in the future. Because it's deciding it to some extent, right? And it uses all this crazy machine learning and tons of resources. My understanding is that the resources that go into Aladdin are just insane. Well, I don't know if it's scary necessarily, because the thing that I think would be scary is if they were okay, we want the market to go down, and then we use our algorithm to make the market go down, and they're constantly part of the thing here is that it is in their best interest to affect the market as little as possible. And in as much as they do affect the market, they're basically trying to use that to, advantage their other trades, so that when it all comes out, the end result is they get their best execution, So that is one of the things about the market that I actually find kind of encouraging, is that yes, there are huge players out there. Yes, you can make money if you know that those huge players are going to come in and move things. By the time you see them doing it, it's maybe already too late. Okay, but you can front run that in some instances if you just are able to guess based on public information that they're going to be doing that, right? But and these are some of the largest flows, but basically all of the research and everything that we understand about it suggests that the best thing for them is to affect the market as little as possible, and to get their transactions done before you even know what's going on. That's why, all of this stuff about price action, I'm well, okay, if it's just the market maker out there, they insert some randomness into their bids and offers. And so that there are going to be these situations where they go down to those lows a lot more easily than it seems like they should be. And that's because of the randomness that they put into their bids and offers. But, so they get people to come in here and then, come back up, and market maker makes money from that. Okay. But that's only if the market maker's the only one that's involved. In a normal situation, you've got all sorts of people having to do all sorts of transactions, right? And they don't care about this highs, they're just going to push it through. And so that's where it's some of the ideas that I see in price action, they would make sense if the market maker was the only thing that was ever going on. But, when it's not the market maker, there's going to be a trend and you're going to get plowed through. And how are you going to know when that is or when that isn't? Because I think that those situations where it's just like the market maker in charge are actually, well, maybe I'm wrong. There are lots of situations. Maybe that's just my bias from being in the S&P or being in treasuries. Because it's like, there's a lot of times where we just sit here and we're not doing anything because we don't expect the market to be going anywhere, right? Whereas if you're in the S&P 500, you might be able to try and trade those. But the problem is still that you end up losing too much when that's not what's going on. I'm noticing a slight little uptick in the Japanese yen coming through here. It reminds me, I had this conversation with this guy on Reddit. Oh my gosh, it was so funny to me. Because this guy was like, why is it that the market seems to go for everybody's stop? Is that like people doing that intentionally? Or is it just some sort of emergent thing or what? And like half of the responses were like, how do you know that that's what happens? Right? And I asked him that. Actually, let me go back and read that. I want to go read that. This one right here. Oh, he deleted the post. He deleted the post. That's interesting. Okay, here we go. So I said, what makes you so sure it's anything more than your own paranoid fears? What empirical evidence is there that supports your ideas? And so then his response was, I guess you are new to this. He said, you missed. Listen, it was a spelling mistake. I see it. I'm not going to slam you too much. Everybody makes that one. You're probably on a phone. It just put the wrong version in, right? Okay. I guess you're new to this. Yes, I have evaluated the possibility that it's just negatively biased or a pattern hallucination, but after being in these markets for many years, I'm certain that there is a phenomenon at play that appears to be designed to thwart novice traders. My question is whether or not these patterns are naturally occurring or a strategy from competitors. As others have said, it probably most naturally market dynamics with perhaps some small facilitation by experienced large traders and market makers. I think this is the right answer. Everyone knows spelling mistakes nullify entire arguments. But like, look, sometimes people are just a-holes. I do kind of feel like in this case, this guy is being kind of stupid, but the kind of stupid that he's being is like the most common stupid that I see in the markets. Like I have this argument with people like freaking every week, right? So it's fine. I'm not going to hate him for it, okay? And I'm not going to focus too much on the spelling mistake because my objective here is not to shame this person, but rather to study how a lot of retail traders tend to think, right? And how they go about this. So this guy thinks that he's been doing this for a while and he knows how it is, and so this is just his observation. Okay, what's wrong with that? Well, because we as humans are literally not capable. We do not have the facilities to be able to see the true behavior of the market. We can see a behavior for a short period of time, but we are not able to analyze millions of data points and see a trend in them. We just can't. The only way that you can discover these kinds of like real underlying market behaviors is to do real deep data science. And what do we find when we do the deep data science? Well, the market is very statistically efficient, but there are some very narrow behaviors that the market exhibits that took us a while to figure out like where do they come from, but the prevailing theory now is that they are caused by the structure of the market and the use of a limit order book. For instance, the square root law of meta order impact. Okay. So you can't just be like, oh, I've been doing this forever. No, you're going to be wrong. That's a great way to fool yourself. You're like, oh, I know everything, and it seems like you notice every time that I'm like, oh, I've noticed a pattern. Here's a pattern that people tend to look at. I always like instantly discredit it, right? It's like, well, I know that people are going to be paying attention to it. I can't help but notice, but I know that it's not really very effective at predicting where it's going to go, and that it's not something I should trade based on. Okay, so I responded to him very quick. Right, he posted like 3 or 4 paragraphs, and then I responded back. Surely, if such a pattern is a thing, you should be able to find empirical evidence to prove its existence. Okay, and here was the part that I thought was interesting. Okay, why I'm reading this to you. There is empirical evidence. Why do you think stop run is a widely used term? If resting orders pile up, the market will find a way to clean them up. This is why the exchange tries to hide stop orders on their servers, because there is obvious incentives to knowing where they are. Ask around. There is plenty of empirical evidence. It's not even a debate. The question is if the phenomenon is naturally occurring or being engineered by market participants. So what he has done is he has seen what everybody else says. That has colored all of his observations. And then when he is asked for empirical evidence, his response is, well, like everybody else knows it too. That's not empirical evidence, right? When I asked him for empirical evidence, he basically made like an appeal to authority or like the appeal to the masses. This is the most popular opinion. Didn't actually provide empirical evidence. It was like, surely the empirical evidence must exist if everybody knows this. But that's not actually the case. There are all sorts of crazy ideas that retail traders have that perpetuate through the retail trader community, and like one person learns from the other person because nobody ever questions it. I find it so fascinating because it's just so wild to me that a person could say that and like not realize what they're saying. I'm like, okay, what empirical evidence is there that this thing happens? And then they don't provide empirical evidence. They say the empirical evidence must exist, but they don't provide it. Right? I gave him, I don't know if I gave this allegory to him very well. It didn't seem to convince him. But I told him, okay, like if you went like 500 years ago and you asked people what causes disease, they would tell you that like it's sin, or maybe it's you not being in line with the environment. That's what causes disease. And then you would be like, okay, prove it. How do you know that that's what causes disease? And they would be like, well, everybody knows it. And don't you see all of these people dying in the streets? So are the people dying in the streets evidence of why the people are dying in the streets is because of sin? No, it's not. That makes absolutely zero sense. But that's literally what he said is he was like, well, there's stop runs. So obviously the market always goes towards the stops. You never sat and thought, well, like maybe there's just stops everywhere. And so anytime that you have a move either way, there's going to be quote unquote stop runs. And that there's no way to use that to predict where the market is going to go. We need like actual data. So if there is like that kind of a behavior, we would have to be able to see the data from the exchange about where the stops are and like study that. To see if like the market, if there are more stops on one side than on the other, does the market go towards the side with the most stops more often? Right? Like, how would you prove it? Like, what is the actual data in the study and all, Like I want a paper on archive.org that's written in LaTeX to LaTeX is a markup language for how they show the formulas and stuff, right? To prove that the behavior is actually a thing. And he just how did we find out how disease is created? Well, somebody eventually invented a microscope and found that there's teeny tiny little organisms everywhere. And then they're like, oh, maybe it's these tiny little organisms that are making us sick. Right? And now we know for sure that that's what it is because we have all of this empirical evidence about it. Like you could like give people the germ and then see that it makes them sick. But I just don't understand how so many people, like I thought that in our society that we taught like what the scientific method is and what empiricism is and how like logic and how to prove things. And yet over and over and over and over and over again in these conversations that I have with retail traders, it shows that they don't. And it's just, my gosh, it kind of blows my mind sometimes, but. By the way, after we got like a pretty strong move to the upside, like look, we're all the way back down here again. The market is definitely playing the game now. I feel that same logic might kind of, well, the thing is that I didn't prove anything. Like, does the market does or does not do that thing? I don't have an opinion. Because I've not seen any empirical, and so lack of empirical evidence isn't a proof of, isn't a falsifying of it, per se. Can't, there are some things that we do know about the way that the market moves and everything that kind of suggests, like when it comes to smart money concepts, okay? A lot of the things that we do know that like we have positively confirmed, I'd say contradicts. And it makes these price action theories extremely unlikely to be true. But and then the fact that you can't find any empirical evidence to prove those things true is just kind of like adds to the pile. Or like a better example of that would be like most retail traders lose money, right? There's all these people that are like, oh, that's not true. It's just because so many people try and they give up. But if you really look at the people that work hard and everything, and then those people can have success. Okay, if that's true, then where's the study showing that there's a certain group of people that if they do these certain things that they actually are likely to have success? Doesn't exist. Probably because they don't actually exist. That very, very few retail traders make money, and of those that do make money, a very good proportion of them were probably lucky and still don't last past 5 years. Those were stops, man. Well, so there is definitely this thing where it's like, when we get a move and I see orders come through, and it seems to me like that those were stop orders. There's no way for me to prove that they are stop orders. Nor do I think that... So when I say, like, those were stops, I think that somebody might get the idea that, oh, okay, so now that we saw stops, that predicts something. No. What it means, now that we see stops, it means that a prediction that I had already made came to fruition, or something that I was looking for came to fruition, right? Which kind of, to me, kind of means like that's the end of what I could be able to predict what could happen. Is there's probably, and the thing is there's, again, my theory, here's my theory, something that I want to prove. Something that if I was spending the time with market by order data, I think that we could probably do a study on this. If I could identify and differentiate between market orders and market orders that were created by stops, is there some statistical abnormality in where stops are placed and which side of the market stops are placed? And my theory is that they will follow the same aberrations that we see in liquidity, which is that they will cluster around even numbers, previous highs, and that generally overall there's actually a lot of noise, that there are actually a lot of stop orders going off all over the place. But there are some situations where in the treasury, if you see it go like 2 ticks at a time, you know, like I see a few ticks go off at 24, like maybe 64 ticks go off at 24, and then all of a sudden they clear 24, and I see some trade at 23, and maybe even, 23.5, and then maybe even they clear 23.5 and they go off at 23, and it does that all at once. Probably stop orders, but that's just what I call it. I don't know if there really are stop orders. You know, I'm only just looking for, you know what, there's probably, if we slip through here, I'm probably going to get an increase in market orders. They're going to overcome the liquidity. It could probably get us through this bit of liquidity that I expect to be down here, right? I expect there to be more liquidity down here because it hasn't traded. It would be like that. Be like this. There'd be more liquidity. You just kind of draw a thing that's like the opposite to the volume profile and then factor in how long has it been. Well, this hole here probably isn't that bad. Right, so they're able to move back and forth across this pretty easily. They could move down here if there's actually a large meta order, but it'll probably take, you know, like 10,000 contracts to really create like a real trend down there. Yep. But if one price trading like immediately triggers other orders, I think that there's a pretty good chance that they are stop orders, just based off of how we know that stop orders on the exchange work, right? That if there's volume at a price or it's bid above that price, then you will see other orders. So it should be like, you know, you see one order go off and then a bunch follow it immediately. Yeah, Rocket. I forgot that that's what he changed his name to. You're talking about Matt Champagne. Or, it was Trader Paradise before that, right? So what he's doing is he is looking at options data and open interest on options and figuring out based on the options gamma and so forth, certain locations where, you know, the flows are likely to shift and so forth. And then on top of that, he takes a lot of risk. Okay. Like with the way that he trades, it's not uncommon for him to have like 50, I think even 70% drawdowns. Okay. But it does look like if you're really willing to take on risk, it does look like if I was going to trade the S&P 500, I would probably do it like he does. Yes, because there is something to options gamma levels being able to predict future order flows. And yes, they have a platform with it they're pushing. I'm not going to like fully endorse the platform, but I think that the general idea that options gamma can predict future orders, that there's some merit to that idea, that theory. Yes. Octavia is short. You're just breaking the value area low. So what got you into that? Yeah. Well, there is volume behind this one. So when we broke 24 before, it was like not that much traded. This time, like 7,000 have traded short here. There's been some orders against it, but a lot more flow bringing it here to the low. Problem is it's probably going to take a lot of more volume for them to continue pushing down. And, you know, it was hard for them to pull that 7,000 out. So do you really think that there's going to be like another 10,000 following it? Well, it's not impossible. But I don't have anything that tells me that there will be. Oh, so keep it. You know what, Captain Price? I know enough about what they've been doing over there that I don't think that he would like send shills out to like promote his stream, and I don't think that he would send them to my stream. So I think that Yakov is probably being genuine here, that he saw Rocket Scooter and he thought it was kind of an interesting thing, even though he didn't completely understand it, and so he wanted to know what I thought about that. And I think the answer is that, yeah, there is something to being able to use options, positioning, and gamma levels to be able to predict future order flows in the S&P 500. Yeah, well, because I seen you still are even on Vinny's live stream, which I'm kind of I'm still like, okay, so does Captain Price just really enjoy watching everybody all the time, or is he actually a secret Vinny infiltrator? You got banned? Really? Oh, I'm sorry. I mean, I'm not sorry, but from wait, banned from there from Vinny's stream, yeah? Or do you mean from Rocket Scooter's stream? I mean, it wouldn't surprise me that Rocket Scooter would see that you're on Vinny's stream and ban you. But oh, from Vinny's. Okay, yeah. I understood correctly. I'm surprised, but I always kind of, so like when I first saw that, I was like, oh, is he a secret Vinny infiltrator? And that's always been kind of like, even still, I don't 100% trust you, but like just from your comments and everything that I'd seen, it was kind of seems like he just enjoys the drama and watching everybody. So I don't care. Rocket Scooter is history. Wow, I haven't checked in on that in a while. They had a court case that was like going to trial, but then I think it got delayed, and I don't remember how far it got delayed to. So, and Rocket Scooter just rebranded and is fine. I tell you what, man, the thing that irks me about the internet, this doesn't make sense to me. Does it make sense? I mean, I guess it makes sense now that I see that that's the case, but I never would have predicted it to be this. The internet is such a short-term place. The internet is such a short-term place. I thought that it was like, oh, you know, once something is on the internet, like it's on the internet forever, and, you know, you better be careful what you do because that can come back and haunt you forever. Yada, yada. Okay, that might be true if you're Beyonce, but just regular people, what we see people just pull off like ridiculous scams, and Rocket Scooter's not a scam as far as I can tell, but take what would be huge hits to their reputation and huge drama, and it not affect them in the least bit or make them stronger. And it's absolutely crazy to me. It really irks me that there are these people that are just, you know, like well-known scammers within the community and that they're still able to make money. There is so much that it's easier for things to be lost in the ocean. If it's not at the beach, no one sees it. Yeah. Like the issue is that, like, yeah, all of the people that were around at the time, they'll remember, but especially in the trading space, there's so much turnover in the trading space that if you just wait 6 months, you're talking to a completely different group of people. Like our stream is one of the few places you can go in the trading community where the people that you can be talking to is actually consistent. I mean, every place has like 2 or 3 guys, but this is like the only place where it's like the same 20 guys that have been here every day for years, you know? There's always going to be pieces of info of whatever you do on the internet wandering around. Well, yes and no. Because, like, so one of the things that I find really weird is that it's actually a little difficult for people to piece together in some of these situations what has happened in the past. So I really wish I could make a wiki. I think that it could work, but I think that you would have to have donations to start. Like, you'd have to have like somebody like Elon Musk to fund it. But basically it would be a scam wiki, where you have contributors and they document these things so that when there's a person and like there's documented like things that we can actually prove, so that it's not just hearsay, right? Because that's the issue, is that they're going to sue you. And so you have to be able to have strong enough controls on what's written in the GUI and lawyers to be able to defend you, to defend that this is like legitimate information being put on and isn't just to try and hurt the reputation of this scammer, right? But I've seen many situations where you'll have a community and it's being led by some narcissistic a-hole scammer guy, and there will be like a defection. Like, a bunch of people all at once will decide that this is a scam and all leave all at once, right? And when that happens, it's just like it gets memory holds. Like, they don't document it, they don't go on Futures.io and post about it and whatnot. It's just kind of like everybody forgets about it. And then 6 months later, it's a completely different group of people. So now, like, the information that would tell you, oh, this guy is a scammer, like, stay away, isn't there anymore. It's like, it's the wildest thing. Like in order for that stuff, in order for that to work against them, they have to reach a certain, like once you're as popular as Inner Circle Trader, then it starts to dog you. Once you're as popular as Trades by Matt is not a scammer. I think he's genuine, but you know, a lot of people have kind of realized that what he's doing is kind of degenerate and don't think that he's a good trader. His which I think, you know, kind of sucks, because I think he's a nice guy, but people have definitely turned against him, right? But that was only able to happen because he got so popular, you know, like getting too popular, bad thing for him. Well, maybe it's not such, because, you know, probably puts a cap on his growth, but he's still doing okay. Well, yeah, the community have definitely turned against ICT. When it first, so I tell you what, because here's the thing. ICT was a Forex trader, and it had gotten to the point where he had covered the Forex space so heavily that he couldn't really make money from it anymore. And all at once, he decided he's going to go into the future space. And you could like tell the moment that it happened. And you could start seeing the posts, and they play all these stupid games like, oh, I'm just asking about this guy and what your opinions are about it. But then when people say, oh, they're a scammer, they get like viciously downvoted, right? So I remember the very beginning when this happened, like being like, nah, like stay away. I'm telling you guys, this is bad news. This guy is bad news. At best, he's a chronic narcissist. And now, like, what, 2 years later, now 2 years later, after it initially kind of like started to pop off on YouTube, now you're right. Like, you post anything about him on any of the forums and people are immediately, they hate it. Because they're so sick of the spam. They're so sick of the spam. But we were talking specifically about Vinny, and there is some drama there and everything, but for the most part, it flies under the radar, right? Not big enough for CoffeeZilla to care. It's the thing. Yeah, there was like supposed to go to court. Actually, let me check. Oh, I can't remember how I found that stuff. A long time ago, like it probably actually wasn't that long. It was maybe last year. You know, somebody had shown me that stuff was going on, and there was like a court case going on that, like, I didn't really know what was going on, and I was kind of confused about. So I went and requested the court records, and like when I read it, I was like, this is like crazy shit. So I just kind of like, okay, whatever, just kind of forgot about it. But that was a different case than this one. But I don't remember the website that I was using to like get that information to go and look it up. So I'd have to go and look it up. Yeah. Well, we got an hour. I don't want to go like super quiet though or anything, you know. This one. No, that's not what I want. Like, I saved this kind of stuff somewhere, but it's like literally been a year, I think. Well, yeah, you're right. It was like the county or something. That's kind of why I gotta look it up. Like, I don't even know how to like spell the name and everything. No. Oh, okay, wait, I have it. It was supposed to go through at the beginning of April, and then it's gotten delayed, and pre-trial is the 30th of May. And then there's another case, and I don't know if that one was kind of crazy. Like, I read the documents, and the whole thing just was like, okay. Because I thought, oh, okay, does this have something to do with this one incident that I remember happening? But no, it was like this. Why I think a lot of it was like stuff he's hallucinating, frankly. But anyways, so I don't know if that one's ever even going to go to trial. But Ali, I've only recently discovered your videos, and it's eye-opening. I was curious to know where you find the academic research for your videos and what are the prerequisites to understand. Oh. Ali, you made my whole week with that question. It's very rare that somebody comes in and asks that question. So here's how I kind of learned this stuff. Okay, so here's this book. I keep it on my desk so that I can show it when we have the stream. It's called Trades, Quotes, and Prices: Financial Markets Under the Microscope by Jean-Philippe Bouchot et al. So Jean-Philippe Bouchot is the curator for the archive.org quantitative finance section. Let me pull that up. I have a link to it here. Where is it? For trading research, quantitative finance. Okay, so archive.org is spelled ARXIV. Here, I give you the link. Okay. So this is a place where people that want to publish papers, they can like get it out in the public, right? So like you've maybe already had your colleagues and everything look at it. Now you're to the point where you want to get it out to journals and stuff like that. You can put it on archive so that the public can see it. And then that can kind of like get it popular. So this is kind of like an effort to get this kind of research out to people for free. And usually what happens is you publish it over here in quantitative finance first, and then like a journal picks it up later, and they'll make a few little changes, and then they'll republish their article with those changes, right? So you're actually getting the research earlier through archive. It's kind of like SSSRN. What is it? SSSRN? How many S's are there? There are 2 S's. SSRN, right? You ever looked up research papers? If you're looking for like things about health and diet and stuff, you usually end up on SSRN, right? Well, archive is the way to do it. And the X is supposed to be like a chai. So that's why it's archive, ARXIV. Ha, it's clever, right? Okay. So if you read this book, again, this guy is the curator for this whole section. He's the one that says, you know, what gets posted and you know, is a legitimate one, and, you know, filters out all of the spam. So this book is basically like 30 years summary of the existing market microstructure research. So when you read this, you will have like the full context of the studies that are considered the most important and the things that we've kind of proven and we know, so that when you come over and you start reading the stories in quantitative finance, you'll have a much better background to be able to understand the things that they're talking about. Now, one thing that book does not go into, but that I've kind of learned, is that a part of the reason why they're doing all of this market microstructure research is because momentum strategies work, and they're trying to figure out, like, why do momentum strategies work? Well, it's because of the structure of the market, apparently, combined with, you know, like the persistence of market imbalances in commodities. You know, like when oil goes up, you know, the things that are causing it to go up will continue to persist for long periods of time, causing gentle rise in the price. Anyways, so that's where you would do it. You could just spend your whole life, I think, reading studies like this, but I come in once a month and look at ones that, you know, see if there's any that I understand enough that I can kind of try and incorporate into what we're doing, or maybe I might know enough to kind of take it a step further or something like that, you know. Just constantly reading research. Not as much as I would like to, but that's how you do it. That's where I get all this information. Now today, oh, you know, I almost forgot, but we have it over here. Where is it? Get shareable link. We do have a video out today. So if you go to that video, you can see my video about momentum. Now, if you don't know how a real momentum strategy works, then this will be a great video. Some of you guys that have been here on the stream, I've been talking about it a lot over the last few months, so you might already know some of that information. But then the other thing that I go into is like, okay, like, this is how a momentum strategy works, And this was like what retail traders picked up and that kind of went and run with it. And so now you can kind of see the pieces of information that they were missing and so forth, and how it's led to kind of the culture that we have. Because momentum strategies is a large part of why so many retail traders focus on technical analysis. The problem is that it's just not really very effective on an intraday basis. So you can go and watch that video if you haven't seen that one. Two dudes fighting over who lies better to people on the internet? No. So there was this. Okay. So there was the day trader paradise one is wild. So let me tell you something. If you're being harassed by somebody on the internet and there's some sort of a feud going on, there is going to be the temptation to try and play the dirty games with it, right? And when we were being harassed, I was looking at everything I could do to just get this guy to go away, you know? And I talked with it because there were so many people messaging me at the time. Like thinking back on it, it's actually quite wild. I don't get nearly as many messages now, but you know, I would have literally dozens of different people messaging me that had experiences with that chat room and all this sort of crazy stuff, right? And a lot of people wanted to try and like get revenge or whatever. And I was always just like, okay, well, you do whatever you want, but I don't want anything to do with that. And it was so totally the right choice because I basically just ignored it. We talked about it at the time, but it was kind of like, well, this is going on, but we're not going to say anything about it, right? Because we don't want to give them more attention. And it was totally the right call. It just eventually it blew over. Vinny has left us alone. I think that he kind of maybe his opinion on us changed a little bit too. And you know, it was the right call to just not play any of those games. But somebody did something, because there's this one guy that like got on Vinny's stream and was like sending him crazy threats and all sorts of other crazy stuff. And then and Vinny thinks that this guy is actually like a hired harasser, that like somebody paid him to go and harass people or something like that, which I don't know why he would think that, but like, so he's accusing that guy of that and was suing him. But I don't think that one's going to go to trial. I don't remember what had happened, but like the latest court records that kind of suggested to me that it wasn't going to go through. So that was the one that I had requested records about, because I'm like, what is going on with this? Because people had been talking about doing things at the time, but nobody did anything. And this guy is somebody, I don't know where that came from. I honestly think that he's just a crazy, is just a guy that got really upset and then Vinny is concocting like this conspiracy theory because he knew that people were probably trying to conspire against him at the time. But I study accounting and finance at my university, so math is not that advanced beyond high school math. Do I need to study advanced undergrad math to understand the studies? Kind of. So, if you don't have calculus, if you've not gone as far as calculus, then you might have some trouble. But if you've gotten to calculus, the mathematical concepts that are on there are, will be within your at least within your ability to grasp it, let's say. But you're probably still going to have to do some research about that particular phenomenon or statistical thing or whatever. But sometimes you can just, ignore the math and still get the major takeaways from it, and it still benefits you. So, man, it's so weird to think about that thing, because at the time I was like, what is this? That's so crazy. And, I thought that it was going to be like another court case as big as like the rocket scooter thing. That would be some fun drama to read into, right? Because I certainly had people that were like, oh, let's screw it. No, we're not going to do that. So nobody did anything. But I figured it was inevitable that somebody would, that like some other group of people would or something. And so I thought that maybe that's what happened. But then I don't think that that's what happened. I think that it was just like one guy. And like, the whole thing. And so I thought it was going to be an interesting thing. And then when I got the court documents, I'm like, this is just crazy talk. Like this is nothing. This is not worth. So like, because it was well, I guess it wasn't that hard to request the records, but I'm just trying to give like a full accounting of that so that you're not like, oh, is there something here? I got the full story, I think, and it's just stupid stuff. But the rocket scooter case, so the reason I was bringing that up is because the rocket scooter case is basically like, that's what Matt did. Was Matt said, oh, okay, I'm going to mess with this guy, and got him to tell him some things, and then turned around. He was basically like, got Vinny to admit how he's scamming people, and then turned around and was like, look, Vinny told me how he's scamming you all. And then that hurt Vinny's reputation, and so now Vinny's suing him about it. And so then they tried to get it tossed out as, an anti-slap thing, but they weren't able to do that, so it's going to go to trial, and I don't think that Vinny stands a chance, but we'll see what happens. We'll see what happens if it actually goes to trial in June. I really want to see the conclusion of it, man. I really want to see... That has more to do, though, with, like, I am just really interested in legal things, right? Like, the whole... You have to present logic and what do the consequences of this, especially, like, when it comes to the Supreme Court and everything. Like, I find that really, really fascinating. But I also haven't talked about or heard anything about Vinny in, like, a long time. And I'm super grateful for that, because I just, it sucked when that was something that was constantly in the back going on and everything. I'm so glad that just kind of blew over, and, that nobody did anything stupid, and it turned out okay. Like, I guess the thing that I'm trying to say, though, is that there was certainly a temptation at the time to, try and play dirty games, right? And I said, no, that wouldn't be very, integrity of me. So we just ignored it, and I did the right thing. I also think that some of the people that were like going around, like trying to get revenge on him, were actually people like sent by Vinny to try and entrap people. But what? I just don't get how scam artists like that would put their scams on the line, but boasting about entering a live trading. Well, so when it comes to Vinny, I hate talking about this because I'm always afraid that, like, they're gonna come back and harass me, Okay, but I'm gonna try and give my honest opinion about this. Okay, my opinion is that Vinny is just a narcissist that got in too deep. I don't think that his intention was ever, oh, I'm going to scam a bunch of people and make a living from scamming a bunch of people. I think that he genuinely thought that, because you ever seen that broker statement where he's like making like one tick and like hundreds of times, and like whenever it pops up, everybody's like, oh my gosh, the broker is making more money from this than you are. You remember that, right? And then after doing that for a while, like the account went bust. And that was like when he was in one of those performance tracking things, and then there's this whole drama about that, right? So I think that he's a narcissist. He's a narcissist that there are certain things that he can't see or refuses to see because the whole thing with a narcissist is like controlling other people's perceptions of you. So when it comes into like, oh, we have to enter, there's a live trading competition, right? The narcissist can't help but, say, okay, let's do it. Even though he knows that he's going to lose, right? And then when he doesn't win, he'll just have all of these excuses about why the competition was legitimate or the circumstances worked against him or whatever, right? But and then this is the other side, the other thing about it that we could say, because Uzi says ICT is streaming to 12,000 people. Well, yeah, because what happens is like if the YouTube algorithm picks up on it, and if you're coming in and you're like just an endless self-promoter, and you convince all of your followers to endlessly self-promote yourself, right? So I always tell you guys, like, don't talk about speculator Seth, right? Like, you're gonna go on Reddit today. I'm not gonna post it. I'm just okay, but maybe today. Maybe some other day, there's going to be a thread on Reddit. It's been a while, so it's coming. I'm not going to post it, but I bet you it's coming, okay? There's going to be this thread that's like, who are your favorite creators on YouTube? Don't mention me. Don't talk about me. Don't post. It's a secret. It's a secret. Speculator Seth, it's a secret. We're just, But I don't think that it would take very much for you to pick it up, like for the algorithm to pick it up. And then, if the algorithm is shoving people to it, yeah. And that's what pisses me off is that like YouTube will show outright, the algorithm will promote outright scams. And YouTube doesn't do squat about it. And that makes me, that's one of those things that will just really make me, really irk me, is like YouTube will censor all of these certain political opinions, but then when there's things going on their website that actually cause real direct harm to people, they don't do squat. And like I said, so far with this competition, we're like 4 months in. Matt has actually been doing good on it. He's been like 5th place for a while. I don't know if he'll actually, stay that towards the end of the year, because again, like what he does is kind of has big drawdowns. But I would expect the winner of those usually to be some sort of a swing momentum trader, right? That's what it's designed for. But, they'll lose it and everybody will make fun of him, and then everybody will forget about it, and the YouTube algorithm will continue to send him plenty of clueless rubes to suck money from. And we'll continue to do our thing where we give people empirical information that helps them. And yeah, the trading is hard and most people will lose money, but at least you stand a chance because you're actually playing the game, right? And we'll just quietly do our thing. You see, I feel like I've come to terms with the YouTube channel doesn't have to be successful. Maybe I don't actually want the YouTube channel to be super successful. I kind of do at this point do feel that. I don't want my YouTube channel to become a smashing success. Don't talk about me. When they post that Reddit thread, don't mention me. Because if the YouTube channel was like a smashing success, then that would just be like more stuff. Right? What I want to do is I want for those you special people that fate has decided to show you that video one day and you came to my channel, you're who I care about. And it's a small group, good. And we're going to create content to help you guys collectively as a team. Think about YouTube's motivations, though. I don't think they know or care what a legit. Yeah, you're totally right, BS. Like well, YouTube, quite frankly, does not have the resources to police even the things that they care about, right? They basically outsource it. It's basically outsourced to India or contractors that look at all this stuff and do moderation. And it's a huge cost for them that they'd rather not pay. So can you imagine you have to have people that will investigate something and make a decision on whether or not something is a scam? But what's frustrating about it is that the result of that is that the stuff that the stuff that gets popular, that the algorithm tends to promote, is more likely to be scams because of that, right? The people that are being honest are basically disfavored by the algorithm because of their competition. What are they going to do? I kind of feel like that maybe you should look at your algorithm and say maybe optimizing for engagement isn't the best thing. That we actually need to look at what is the actual content too? Does the actual content make sense? Is the actual content providing real verifiable information? Is you know? Do these guys get eyes on ads? I don't know. Do you think that ICD does ads? I would think that with the popularity that he's had on his YouTube, that he probably would spend on ads, but I've never seen an ad for him. So Day Trader Paradise, he came out right out the gate with ads, but I think that's because they were always going to promote this platform that he has. It's kind of funny thinking about this because we're going to be on Ninja Trader on Wednesday. You make sure to fit that in there, so my first time. So just so you guys all know, I have a YouTube channel and all of that, but don't promote me. There's going to be a Reddit thread. They're who's your favorite YouTube? Don't mention me. Okay, it's a secret. You guys are special insiders. ZF in the evens, it seems like a super magnet. I don't know, this move up. So the funny thing is that this move up feels a lot stronger, but the pace of the change in cumulative delta is actually much more gentle. So I do kind of see evidence for a very slight meta order long now, but not enough for me to want to take a trade on it. So Oh, Andre says there's an ad that says technical analysis and order flow are obsolete, and I just always cringe when I see that. What is an ad for? Is it an ad for a price action trading strategy? Because that one always makes me laugh, because price action is more classically technical analysis than like technical analysis. like it's so weird to me that, at least for this group of people, that the definition of technical analysis is basically like Wilder's work, right? Oh, you don't know who it is. You just always that's my boy. There you go. Good. You're making me proud here, Andre. Now, so like their definition of technical analysis is like Wilder. What was his first name? I forget that guy's first name, but you know, Wilder, he made like RSI and all of these, right? That's their definition of technical analysis. Whereas like what they do as price action is really more like what people considered technical analysis to be in like the 1920s, and just applying it to 1 minute charts. Like they care about if they're making higher highs and higher lows, and if you have an individual bar with a lot of volume, and right, like that's price action. Doji patterns. I think that you might be getting like a lot of pent up thought, because I've done really good lately about talking about what we know and not spending all this time bashing all of the other things that are out there. But because Captain Price got banned, I guess it came up. So it is what it is. But it's okay. It's a Monday. It's Monday. It's a Federal Reserve week. We can kind of get that out of our system and then spend the rest of the week talking about interest rate policy, right? I also, by the way, you know, seeing this gentle rise in the treasuries, I thought, well, okay, so is there something going on in the Japanese yen? Nope. Japanese yen is still just kind of like not doing anything all that interesting. Maybe just mean reversion to the downside after the intervention. But something that is moving is oil. So perhaps, I mean, I don't know. This one's always kind of a little bit like iffy, but it's like the only thing that I can really see is that oil is declining, and so maybe the treasuries are backing off because they think that oil will back off. Because oil being too high would definitely be something to drive inflation and keep interest rates high, right? Well, I haven't really checked the news or Twitter, so let's come in here. Scottish First Minister quits after disastrous hate crime law. Okay. You would never know another bank failed KR, right? Dude. That the way that story came through and everything. But you know what? Though, Octavius, like, I think the reality is that bank failed months ago, you know? And it's just... That bank failed months ago. The market decided that that a small bank failing doesn't matter anymore. And then, you know, later, the FDIC quietly comes in and takes it over. I think that's what's happening. Because it was kind of like, oh, yeah, that's kind of weird that this just go under all of a sudden, and like nobody's panicking about it, but okay. Biden embraces G20 proposed 2% wealth tax. Too bad a wealth tax is unconstitutional. I tell you what, man, So Biden put out his budget and it had that increased capital gains tax in that. And that actually got a little bit more attention than I thought it would. I thought that everybody would just kind of ignore the budget, knowing that like this isn't like a serious proposal. There's no chance that it would ever get passed. And I'm not sure that you would put something like that in there if you thought it would be passed, because it would be so bad for the economy. Like, oh my gosh, can you imagine? Can you imagine if it was like like Biden enjoys a 60% margin in the Senate so they can pass whatever they want, and then the Democrats are like, okay, well, I know what will help us for the election. Increased capital gains tax. Stock market. Right. Again, it's like, it just seems like whatever they do, if that was, they didn't do this, but it always seems like whatever they do is short-sighted and like backfires on them. But oh man, there was a real internet firestorm over that. And actually, it kind of irks me a little bit, because most of the content that I saw about this issue was like, oh, why are you guys all getting upset about the increased capital gains tax? It's not like you guys are going to have to pay it anyways. No, everybody will be affected, because that's money coming out of the stock market. It doesn't matter that it's not your money. You're still going to be affected by it. Do you work for a company that has a stock, or do you have customers that are public companies? You're going to be affected by it. Do you own money in the stock market? You're going to be affected by it. You have a 401k with an index fund. You're going to be affected by it. Your video hit 1 hour ago and you just got the notification. That's okay. I don't know why. You know what? For some reason, my videos do better if I release them at 7:30 as opposed to 9 o'clock. So, but it doesn't seem like it makes a big difference. But you know what makes a big difference, guys? Is when you leave a comment on the video. If everybody in this stream right now went to my video after the stream and left a comment on the video, that it would just completely blow up. Like when I've had videos and there's like 2 or 3 comments on them, those ones blow up. Like the one that I made about the computer hardware, like just 2 or 3 comments, and that one constantly gets comments on it. So, that's by far the most successful video on the channel. So, with there being almost 20 people here, if I had 20 comments on the first day, yeah, that video would blow up. So, we do want the videos to do well. We do want that information to get out. So, leave a comment. Just don't go tell Reddit, right? Just don't go tell Reddit. And they're like, who's your favorite YouTuber? Don't mention my name, please. First rule of Trade Club is you don't talk about Trade Club. Just, you know what? Trade Club just doesn't have the same edge that Fight Club does it? No. No. You know what, guys? I think that no matter what we do, we are always going to be hyper nerds that are obsessed about something that is really dorky to the stock market. We want to make it cool, like, all of those, like the Wolf of Wall Street. It's never going to be cool. No. I think the YouTube notifications are kind of weird anyways, so I don't think that it should notify you like as soon as it gets posted. But that's good that you have the notification icon, the bell icon turned on. I have a higher percentage of my viewers with the bell icon turned on than most channels do. So that's good. You really need that, because my video posting has become quite inconsistent, hasn't it? The weak ones are crossing the other side to price action? I don't know. You know what? I do feel I do feel like I'm maybe starting to have a little bit of an impact because I see more people pushing back on Reddit now. When people say something, I see, like that thread that I was talking about earlier, there was a lot of people saying, well, how do you know that happens? I think that it was because they thought that he must be following ICT stuff, but there's more pushback. So that's good. Like, I don't want to be like a gatekeeper. Okay. But we do need to police our community and keep things to like in empirical discussion. Like, we talk about stuff that we can like prove and like use real data rather than talking about like what basically amounts to conspiracy theories. Talking about conspiracy theories is fun from time to time, but when we're talking about like serious trading stuff, like that's all some of the retail trading subreddits are about, are just some guy's theory about the market that has no backing evidence whatsoever. And so yes, the people should question it, right? So that those new people that come in kind of go, oh, I shouldn't just go with the commonly accepted knowledge. I actually have to dig down deep myself and find out what's actually true here in this market. Do the research myself, like learn the data science and perform the experiments myself to verify what I'm seeing. Like, yeah. See if it's applicable to your market. Yeah. The more we do that, the more that we will help our brothers and sisters. And then maybe someday, we'll be organized enough to kind of push back a little bit against the big institutions instead of just getting slaughtered all the time. Now let's see, we got 5 minutes left. Let's see here. Multiple investors and analysts said the intervention from the Japanese yen appeared to have involved about 20 to 35 billion worth of yen purchases. They added that they assumed a breach of the 160 level had forced Japanese officials to act, though they did not have definitive evidence the intervention had taken place. Senators questioned Biden administration on Russia's use of Tether to evade sanctions. Thank you. Oh, did you just delete it? I swear I saw the chat over here move, and then I looked over there and I didn't see it. Did you delete a comment? I hate it when you guys delete comments. It's like in the Discord. Oh my gosh. The number of comments that you guys delete afterwards is insane sometimes. And like, I get when it's like you'd said something that's like incorrect or whatever and it didn't really fit in the conversation, so like you're deleting it afterwards. But sometimes you guys will post something that's like interesting and then you'll delete it later, and I'm like, why? So I got a special little channel that shows me all of the deleted comments. Don't worry about it. Oh, okay. Doing party stuff. I don't know what kind of... You're making me nervous. Oh, you were going to play PlayStation? Do you know how to... Oh, do you see? Like, see, here's somebody asked a good question 2 minutes ago. Nico. Do you know how to switch Jigsaw to the light theme? Yes, I do. You come over here and you go tools. No, is it? Where is it? Options, file options. And then right here in the upper right, there's your skin. And I don't know why you would ever change it, but yeah, you can change it. They figured it out, and so they deleted the question because they thought, oh, you should have just looked. But you know what? Like, somebody have the opportunity to answer the question anyways, just leave it there. Yeah, see, Nick says I figured it out. That was, yeah, but why? It is, so now that you've figured it out and it was so easy, it was that embarrassing you had to delete the comment instead of giving somebody the opportunity to feel like that they helped you? Come on. That just gets me into this is my biggest pet peeve. Is like somebody will come into the chat and they'll be like, hey, does anybody use this platform? Okay. And then it's like they'll do it in the middle of the night when, like, you know, because like outside of market hours, chat is not that active, right? Discord is not that active after market hours. Right. So then like 2 hours later, yeah, somebody will respond, right? And by that point, they've like completely forgotten about it, right? And they never come back. Like, just put your question in the first message. Don't message me being like, hey, you know anything about this thing? Oh, yeah, well, I was wondering. No. Just ask the question. Because there's no guarantee when I'm going to see it. And every message that's there, that's just wasted time. This is the way to do I'm telling you guys, I'm pretty good. I think I'm pretty good at this internet thing. I've been doing it since I was like 12. Okay. I've been obsessed this whole time. Like I've spent way too much time on the internet. Okay. Like I'm the chronically online millennial poster child. Okay. And I'm just telling you, you want to win at the internet? Put the bulk of the information in the first message, right? Like if you're on Tinder, don't waste time. Don't be like, hey, try and build a rapport. Go a couple of, you know, message back and forth a few days, feel like that you're in love, and then ask them. No. Just like right away. Okay, we matched. Within 5 messages, you should have a date set up. Just go for the kill. Probably shouldn't use the analogy going for the kill when talking about dating. Okay, but I'm telling you, like the people that want to date, they want to get to the point. They want to get to the point. By like spending all of this time, like, oh, we got to get to know each other first before I can ask to set up a meeting and everything. What you're actually doing is you're optimizing for the people that don't actually ever follow through and go on a date. So the people that do follow through and go on the date, they go to it right away, fast. We met, you look good, let's go. We both think each other looks good. Okay, let's go out to dinner. That's all you got to do. Tinder strategies didn't see that coming, right? I felt like I had gotten good at it. Maybe, okay, look, maybe it's because I'm so good looking. I feel like I had more success on Tinder than most guys, right? When I go to the Tinder subreddit and it's like, oh, I've swiped right on tens of thousands of women and I've never gotten a match. And the one match that I did get won't talk to me or anything. I went out 3 times a week for like a year. Okay, so it's probably because I'm so good looking. Actually, I was working at Goldman at the time. Was that in my profile? I think it was in my profile. I don't know if people in Utah really know or care. Like, that was one of the things that I thought was so funny about when I met my wife. So, like, I worked for Goldman. I had my Acura. You know, I was like, okay, what kind of car can I get that will kind of help me out here? Well, let's get a luxury sedan. Not something that's super flashy, but still kind of shows that I've got things together, right? And she thought that it was like a cheap 4-person car. And she didn't know who Goldman Sachs were. She didn't care. Tinder strats for day traders. Yeah, Tinder strats for day traders. Tell them that you work for a prestigious company. It could be that. Actually, probably what it really is that I'm in Utah, right? As you get older, the male to female ratio starts to work very heavily in the guy's favor. There are not as many men at that age, and certainly not as many men that actually have like real careers and have things together, because the guys that have careers and have things together, they're already married. So in most places, it's not a huge thing, because a lot of people, they get to that age and they're just like, yeah, okay, whatever. I'll just be by myself, right? But in Utah, it's like you're supposed to get remarried. You're supposed to have kids, guys. So that's probably why I had so much more success than other people. But I did it a lot. I tried a bunch of different things. I did a lot of research and stats. I felt like I had a pretty good system set up. And part of this system was don't waste time. Every minute you go, that's chance for other guys to ask her out before you. So you matched. You have everything that you need. Just everything should be confirming that they're a real person and setting up a date. And don't do anything more than that actually ruins the first date. Like, let me tell you something. A first date where you already know everything about the person sucks. Sage advice. Thank you. Feels good. Because usually when I talk about this stuff, everybody's like, okay, whatever, so. Don't know what you're talking about. Don't do anything I wouldn't do 100%. Well, that's a pretty hard, because there's lots of things that I don't do. If you're going to use me as your example, then you're not going to be drinking coffee anymore. You probably don't want to follow me 100%. At least 10 states in America have blocked the use of non-compete clauses, which stop workers from leaving a firm to join a rival. Didn't they already put the rule out to do that? Okay, whatever. Maybe that story's old. Don't listen to my messages in chat. I'm in party. Oh, okay. I'm sorry. All right. Well, anyways. Well, I had a fun chat today. Interesting market. I mean, did any of you guys catch that long? You know, Octavius had gotten short at one point, but it was not. It was, only went like 2 ticks and flipped. I'm just assuming that he probably. What is the word that we use? Scratched it. He probably scratched that one. So 24 to 29. I guess it could have made $20. It would have been okay. I don't think that anything I had would have really said that we were going to go long today, though. So that's kind of curious, though. Hey, keep an eye on that if it does this in the morning Tuesday and Wednesday as well. Because I am kind of wondering if the Federal Reserve meeting ends up being like more dovish. Like the treasuries end up higher after all of this. Maybe not like too much higher, but like maybe 109 by the end of the week or something like that. Catched it too early and puked. Oh, when they snip down. See, it's just kind of a freak move that, I don't think that we have a whole lot of an ability to predict, unfortunately. But it's still possible. You might have got lucky. All right, guys. Tomorrow, stay